Se quedó bajando cosas. ¿Qué es eso? Hola. ¿Cómo estás?
Ya se desconectó.
No, eso que recién apagas. ¡Uy, uy, uy! ¡Uy! ¡A la verga! Se lo quebraron los mosquitos, güey. Ahí está.
If you would have told me 10 years ago that this was gonna be more popular than this,
And I was free. Free to explore my world.
I would have had a quick giggle and move on. But as of the end of 2023, one single developer was able to create a game with better world building, gameplay, and multiplayer interaction than most AAA titles. And what I've clearly noticed is that most of the bigger gaming studios fail to deliver a game that contains essential game design principles in trade-off live services. In this video we'll take a look at how a 21-year-old developer outclasses big gaming studios and how that can be a hopeful yet preoccupying thing in the future. If you didn't know, Little Company was created by one single developer that goes by the alias of Seekers, a 21-year-old developer that started out his career making Roblox games of all things, and then transitioned into the horror genre and has built a good catalog of games that you can find on Steam. I'll put the link in the description. The point I want to make here is that Seeker's career started from his passion to video games, which is a massive contrast to the big corps taking control of many big-time video game studios that throws whatever slob is trending along with live services. In order for a game to be good, it requires both game design and game development. And if you notice, most of the hit given at games is usually directed towards the devs. Well, people think that just because developers are the ones that program the game, they are the ones responsible for all of it. When in reality, in order for a game to have a smooth development phase, it requires a solid design, and this rings true to any kind of software development. Imagine you want to build a skyscraper, and instead of contacting the civil engineers and architects that will create the blueprints, define materials, machinery needed, aesthetics of the building, and so on, they just rush straight into construction and handle things as time goes along. This is exactly what's going on with mainstream titles. There is no planning, no passion, no idea or concept that they want to push. Or maybe they do have one, but investors don't allow them to. What ends up happening though is a sea of redundant and generic titles without any reason for existence other than live services. For example, one game design principle is to set clear goals and objectives. This is to create a pathway for the players to follow. Generally, there is a big primary goal that, in order to achieve it, players must complete a set of smaller goals, but all of them must be connected and provide something to the overall goal. Achieving goals and objectives requires a set of rules. Some can be more ambiguous than others, but it is not to restrict the player, but to challenge them, which creates tension and a sense of urgency, but delivers joy and achievement whenever they're completed. Little Company has one primary goal: collect loot from different moons and sell them in order to reach your quota so you can keep your job as a scavenger. The rules of the game are pretty simple. There's a time limit per map that you have to gather the resources, there will be enemies that will get in your way where you might be able to defend against some of them, you can buy items to make your journey easier, and that's it. The best, or I guess the worst example to compare it against is Redfall by Arcane Austin. A failure of a game to the extent that not even the developers wanted to work on it. This speaks a lot since this is a very well respected studio, and the gist of it is that you're dropped into a huge world in scale but small and meaningful activities that is infested with vampires. You need to loot in order to get better gear and complete small tasks that eventually lead to a boss fight that will end up in you clearing a zone. The structure or concept of Redfall is actually in line with the design principle. The problem is the execution, where most of the bigger goals are independent of another. They don't feel like they're part of the main goal, which supposedly is to be the vampire god. And because the studio went for volume, they added so many objectives and small goals that are just repetitive and boring. They just feel like tasks you would get when searching for popular side quests for looter shooters. The game mechanics are the building blocks of a game, and if history has taught us anything, keeping mechanics simple and engaging are crucial to make a game interesting. A lot of popular games have less than 3 to 4 core mechanics. In Little Company case, The mechanics are running, looting, using items to facilitate looting, and using the terminal. Notice that all of them help achieve the primary goal, which is to reach the quota. On the other hand, you have Starfield, a prime example that introducing a lot of mechanics ends up achieving nothing. For example, the game has a really complex and interesting ship builder that doesn't really matter at all because you'll be fast traveling anyway.
Takes longer to sit in the driver's seat of your ship than it does to drive your ship across the universe. And when you get there, an unskippable cutscene sets her down 3 full sprints away from the point of interest.
But wait, you can create a settlement into a planet that you like and spend tons of hours building it to the way that you want. Which, as soon as you're done, you'll just leave it, because all of the planets are just running simulators full of 3D assets and loading screens. What about the magic skills, you may ask? Yeah, they're kinda useless anyway, but they're not really that good. Huh?
Okay.
Haven't you noticed that a lot of AAA titles seem to have a ton of marketing about how they made the game? All the struggles they went through, their whole process for figuring out things and whatnot, but the actual gameplay itself, the marketing that it has is just minimal. Seems like you should care about mainstream games because a popular studio made it or it is related to a beloved franchise, rather than the game itself being fun. Which is another design principle. The player must have the fun. That doesn't mean that the ones creating the game must suffer, but that they need to design it in a way that players enjoy their time. And this has to be without the need of live services. GameDeveloper.com perfectly exemplifies this. Quote, "Presenting the player with interesting and well-paced decisions is the rocket science of game design. Players have fun when they are interested in the decisions they're making, when they are kept absorbed by the pacing of the required decisions, and when they feel a sense of reward and accomplishment when good decisions are made. When the required decisions are too trivial or random, the element of fun lags. You risk boring the player and driving them out of the game." End quote. In Little Company, every decision matters. Do you go back for more loot? Should you pick up the reactor or the hung? I always struggle with that one. Should you fight the monster with the shovel or sacrifice one of your teammates? All the decisions that you make are challenging, fun, and impact the outcome of either a secondary or primary goal. What is a bad design? Look at Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. A Far Cry copy-pasta with an avatar skin. Does it matter if you save the random animals? Nope. It's not like you have a reputation system or anything. Hell, you don't even get rewards. Should you go out and look for the magic flowers that increases your stats? I mean, the combat is lackluster and very easy. You probably won't even need it. How about getting out of the main storyline to explore the world? If you want, then you test the background, I guess, because there's nothing else you'll get. You can make decisions in the game, but they don't really matter. They're just there to fill into the checklist required for a mainstream game. Among Us, Phasmophobia, Devour, and the current example of Little Company shows that a game doesn't need the best graphics or be attached to a popular franchise in order to be successful. As long as it follows basic design principles and has the player as the center of everything, the game will be fine. It obviously takes a lot of effort, experience, talent, and passion to properly make a game. But keep in mind that most issues current games have are not technical. Back in the days, video games were limited because of hardware, but it has evolved to such a huge pace that software has not been able to fully catch up. As of right now, not many software is able to fully utilize the most powerful hardware out there in a proper way. So much inefficient and lazy code is being thrown out there in order to reach a timeline. And this is what happens when poor design goes into any software. Without a proper plan, changes will be constant, and no matter how minuscule they are, they might break an entire system simply because they were never considered. And as long as people keep buying these games, nothing will change.